Alright guys, it's time for the Rogue. In this video, I'm going to convert every vanilla macro I use on my Rogue to the Classic macro system. And once again, if any of these macros don't work in Classic, there will be an update in the comments. In my opinion, this is probably the most useful macro that I'm going to give you. It allows you to spam your button for stealth without worrying about canceling it on accident. This helps a lot when you're spamming to get a re-stealth after a gouge in PvP, as you barely have enough time to drop combat. This next macro will target the nearest enemy, start your auto attack, and cast Hemorrhage. Your abilities don't start your auto attack until they actually go off, so it's important to have start attack for when you're low on energy, or your abilities are on cooldown. I include clear target to make my targeting smarter. If you'd like a more in-depth explanation on this, I have another video dedicated entirely to explaining targeting macros. I actually like to use this same macro on Ghostly Strike as well. This macro combines Riposte and Sinister Strike into one button. This allows you to spam Sinister Strike and have your Riposte get used automatically. Very useful while leveling. We can macro these two abilities together because Riposte is actually off the global cooldown, so it will cast at the same time as Sinister Strike. Something I like to do is include Riposte on my finishers as well. It only costs 10 energy and it doesn't give a combo point, so it's not a waste to use it even if you're already at 5 combo points. This macro will increase your DPS, but it might delay your eviscerate if you have low energy, which could be bad in PvP. By placing this here, I'm basically saying that I value Riposte over a 5-point eviscerate, so I wouldn't blame you if you disagree and you take it out. This next macro looks complex, but it's actually really simple. It prevents you from starting your auto attack while using Backstab from stealth, but it lets you keep that functionality once you're in a fight. Since this means the targeting logic from start attack only works when I'm not in stealth, I have to add target enemy to the macro. This macro combines all of the different ranged weapons into one button. It picks the right ability depending on what you have equipped. If for some reason the Warned condition doesn't work in Classic, you can try out Equipped instead, but they should both do the same thing. I actually like to add a little extra to this macro. I use this button to manually remove stealth. This is important because sometimes you're better off just running up to a target because stealth reduces your movement speed by a lot in vanilla. This is the best place for this because shooting takes you out of stealth anyways. It's also the perfect spot because if you press it while running, it will only cancel your stealth because you have to be standing still to shoot. I actually got the idea for this from mages that use a macro on Ice Lance to come out of their ice block. These macros are pretty simple. They put you into stealth if you aren't already, otherwise they use an opener. You might be tempted to shorten the macro like this. In theory, these should work the same, but technically this has a condition of being in stealth. I know what you're thinking, but you can only cast Cheap Shot in stealth, right? Well, sometimes you can get off a cheap shot even though you just lost stealth because reasons. There will be times where you could have gotten an opener, but your macro would be checking for stealth more effectively than the actual game servers. This is why it's important to not put a stealth condition before your stealth abilities. This is a Spammable Sap macro, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. It drops your current target and looks specifically for the closest enemy player and then uses Sap. It's really useful against other rogues. This one's really similar. You can use this in dungeons to farm gold. This macro uses stealth instead of vanish when you're not in combat. This is meant to replace your vanish button and save you from wasting flash powder. This macro does have one potential flaw. There could be a scenario when you're choosing to vanish even though you're out of combat because your stealth is on cooldown, and in this situation the macro wouldn't let you vanish. This is really unlikely though, so I still like to use it. Either way, you should include stop attack in your vanish because a queued up auto attack can take you out of stealth after you vanish. Alright guys, that's it for part 1. You can watch part 2 right here. I hope you guys are liking this series. It takes me way too long to make these videos. If you liked the video, please subscribe and check out my Patreon for updates on what I'm working on next. Why are you still here? Go watch part 2.